Have you ever stopped to think about how you think? I mean, really think about it. Why you do the things you do? Well, today we're diving into one of the most important books on that very topic, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. We're going to meet the two different minds that are constantly running the show inside your head. So let's just start with a kind of a provocative question, one that's right at the heart of this whole book. Are you really in control of your decisions? I mean, we all like to believe we are, right? That we're the captain of our own ship, but Kahneman's work pretty much blows that idea right out of the water. Kahneman puts it this way, and I just love this quote. He says, our conscious self is less like a CEO making big decisions and more like a figurehead, just signing off on paperwork that's already been prepared by these deeper, faster, more hidden parts of our brain. Okay, so how does our brain pull this off? How does it create such a convincing illusion that we're in charge? Well, to get that, we need to meet the little press secretary that's working 24/7 inside your mind. Yeah, a press secretary. Neuroscientists have found that a part of our brain basically does this job. It takes all this chaotic stuff coming in, our impulses, our feelings, what our senses are telling us, and it just spins it into a neat, tidy story. You know, a story that makes it seem like a single you was in charge the whole time. It's the part of you that, after you impulsively buy something you don't need, immediately cooks up 5 perfectly logical reasons why it was actually a brilliant purchase. The explanation always comes after the decision. So if our conscious self is just the press secretary, then who's really running the show? This is where Kahneman gives us these two characters, the two real power players in our heads. And it's such a brilliant way to understand how we think. Okay, so first up, meet System 1. Think of it as a giant, powerful elephant. This is your gut reaction. It's fast, it's automatic, it's emotional, and it is always on. Then you've got System 2, the rider sitting on top of the elephant. The rider is your slow, deliberate, analytical mind. It's the part that does math problems and thinks through complex arguments. It's logical, but it's also lazy and takes a lot of effort to get going. And this right here perfectly captures their relationship. The rider, our logical self, likes to think it's in charge, holding the reins. But let's be real. If that 6-ton elephant wants to go somewhere, it's gonna go there. And what does the rider do? Most of the time, it just comes up with a really good story explaining why that was the right way to go all along. Now, this whole elephant and rider setup is incredibly efficient for getting through the day. But like any complex system, it's got some bugs. Some predictable glitches in the software that can get us into a lot of trouble. Let's look at 2 of the big ones. Okay, glitch number 1, our brains love a good story. I mean, we are absolutely wired for narrative. We will almost always choose a simple, compelling story over cold, hard data. Just think about it. You hear one vivid, scary story about a shark attack, and suddenly you're terrified of the ocean, even though the actual statistics show it's incredibly, incredibly rare. The story just hits harder. And this is the crucial part. If a story feels right, if it's coherent and makes sense, our fast-thinking elephant, System 1, just gobbles it up as truth. It doesn't stop to ask about the boring stuff like, what are the actual odds of this happening? What's the base rate, as the experts call it? Nope, a good story is good enough. All right, on to glitch number 2. This one has to do with our powerful, almost irrational fear of losing. Just ask yourself this. Why does losing $100 feel so much worse than the joy you get from finding $100? Psychologically, it's not even close. Losses loom about twice as large in our minds as equivalent gains. It's a principle called loss aversion, and it means we are often way more driven by the fear of losing something we already have than by the exciting prospect of gaining something of the exact same value. So, this all sounds a little grim, right? Are we just stuck? Completely at the mercy of these mental glitches? Well, no, not at all. And the book's solution is actually pretty profound. It says, stop trying to perfect your thinking and instead start perfecting your environment. This is such a key insight. You can't just try harder to be rational. Just being aware of your biases isn't some magic vaccine that protects you from them. Why? Because these biases are features of the elephant, of our fast, automatic System 1. Trying to fight it with willpower is exhausting, and you're going to lose. The smart move is to design systems that account for these flaws from the start. So it's a completely new approach to self-improvement. It's a simple 3-step process. First, you just have to acknowledge your flaws. Accept that your brain has these predictable weak spots. Second, you stop relying on pure willpower, on your poor, tired rider to win every single fight. And third, you get proactive. You redesign your world to make the good decisions the easy decisions. So what does that actually look like? Well, using a checklist for a big, important decision, that gives your writer a clear roadmap so the elephant can't just wander off. Setting up automatic savings transfers, that's a default that works for you even when you're not paying attention. These are all just guardrails. They're simple ways to guide our impulsive elephant toward better choices, especially at those moments when we need it most. And when you put all of this together, it leads to this really powerful conclusion, a whole new way of thinking about what it even means to be wise. This quote basically sums up the whole book for me. True wisdom, true responsibility, isn't about pretending you're perfectly rational all the time. It's the exact opposite. It's about knowing the specific situations where your own judgment is most likely to fail you and then planning for it. The book calls this humility applied as method. It's not just a feeling, it's a practical strategy. It's the practice of assuming that your future self is probably going to be tired or rushed or biased, and then building those guardrails into your life, your work, and even your society to protect you from your own predictable mistakes. And that leaves us with one final big idea to chew on. What if the whole point isn't to fix our flawed minds? What if instead, the goal is to stop judging ourselves so harshly for these flaws and start designing a world with more compassion and more care for the wonderfully imperfect minds we actually have?